So today on Learning Unboxed, we have a very special episode because this time on Learning Unboxed, we're actually having a takeover. So one of our internal colleagues, Javier Cruz, is taking over the mic today in the interview, and he is going to be leading a conversation that's all about student experiences and what that means in a STEM world, in an innovative program, in a design lab, and in a community that's all around and all about innovation. And so I am super excited today to be handing the program over to somebody else. So Javier, the mic is yours.
All right, thank you, Annalise. So just a little bit about me. I'm a senior at Metro High School. It's my last year. I planning to attend the Ohio State University, majoring as visual arts. And this was an idea that I suggested to Annalise maybe a couple of weeks ago about, maybe having an episode of just where students just have this conversation about their experiences at past and just, how that has influenced their pathway moving forward. So I think the first thing we should do is have an introduction, because honestly, I know some of you very vaguely. I've seen you around Metro, but I feel like an introduction, just like your name, your major, or any projects that you've working on recently. So Caleb, we can start with you.
Okay, my name is Caleb Buaful. I'm a third year at Ohio State studying industrial and systems engineering. Couple projects that I'm working on right now. Startup company called Electron, which deals with energy and sustainability. And I have some other music stuff that I'm doing on the side too.
All right, Melissa.
Hi, my name is Melissa Olvera. I am a second year student at Ohio State and I'm majoring in industrial design. And some of the projects I'm working on right now is I'm designing furniture for an urban public space to hopefully attract more people to a space that's not commonly visited on OSU's campus, as well as creating a free library system on campus that will encourage more students to take time to read some books.
All right, cool. Swathi?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Swathi Vudatala. I'm a third year at Ohio State studying economics and public policy analysis with a minor in global public health. And a few current projects. I guess one that I was involved with in the past was a podcast called Fresh Off the Boat, and it was an Asian American podcast. And I helped produce an episode there. Currently, I'm working with some of my peers at the Fisher College of Business on an impact challenge where we're essentially focused on having more intentional discussions around diversity and inclusion. And in the future, I'll be pursuing an internship this summer in consulting.
All right, cool. Josiah.
Hey, my name is Josiah Nahhas. I'm a first year student at BGSU majoring in construction management. Because of the pandemic, there's no really projects for me to do as a freshman. But this summer, I'm going to be co-oping at Cornucoco Sing in Columbus, Ohio.
That's cool. Yeah, so I think this episode was kind of touch and base on because I know that you guys had at some point in your high school career, you had you went through a program at PASS. It could have been Metrobots or a club, a summer program. So if you guys could also share a little bit about what was your first introduction to PASS? Was it through a club? Was it through a summer program? And what made you, choose that specific program? And then we can go the same way. So Caleb, you.
Okay, so what kind of got me at PASS was I did a learning center called Digital, which is focused. It was there was two different types of digital. There was the music side of digital and then the more graphic side of digital. So I had went the music route because, I had some, I have a passion for music and stuff like that. So I went that route and I went to GrooveU and then also took a couple classes at PASS. So that's how I kind of got my introduction to PASS.
That's cool. Yeah. So I've also I was trying to go into digital media as well. That's actually how I got this internship at PASS. Right now I'm working as a video production. I started off as exactly the same, try to get into the media production aspect to it. But I felt just through the internship at PASS, I was maybe that's not the best route for me. I'm not the best at that. So let me try something new. So I think that's a cool thing about PASS. So Melissa, what about you?
I got involved with Pass through the Metrobots. I joined that club my freshman year, and then I stayed in the club all throughout of high school. And then I continued to be involved with the learning centers and then helping out with some of the summer camps that they run.
That's cool. What about you, Swathi?
Yeah, similar to Melissa, I was also part of the Metrobots all 4 years of high school, joined freshman year. And yeah, I found myself at PAST a lot for that. And then, just like Melissa said, junior year, I also pursued a learning center at PAST through the Bodies Learning Center. And that also found me even more at PAST through that. So yeah, been pretty involved there.
Cool. What about you, Josiah?
Yeah, my earliest memory of past was actually a Minecraft mathematics club back in like the 7th grade or something like that. It was like in the back rooms before the building was remodeled. I really got involved in past, of course, with the robotics club and really the fabrication and mechanical side of robotics.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I was also interested in the Metrobots, but I never got the chance due to scheduling and all that. So I kind of wanted to to me, this is an opportunity to learn more about the Metrobots and how that worked, because I know a lot of my friends are still at the Metrobots, and they always said it's a great opportunity, especially for like engineering and mechanical and all that. So I don't know if you want to share anything cool projects that you guys did, or how has that influenced your pathway currently?
It really helped me in terms of I feel like any mechanically sided project,
Yeah.
I feel like I can do it now, or at least have a understanding of how it works.
Mhm.
There's a whole nother side to robotics, of course, that's like
Yeah.
the writing, the research, the grant writing, which Melissa actually did a lot of, and which you may be interested in. But the skills that I learned may not help me in my major, but it definitely will help
Mhm.
me for any projects I decide to do.
So were you guys all in the same team during the? Oh, okay, okay, yeah. So what was your part in the Metrobots?
I mainly worked on the mechanisms. So you see our robot from actually 2 years ago. It had these pistons so it could lift itself up and kind of like drive onto
Mhm.
blocks. I designed the mechanism with the pistons attached to the robot. My senior year, however, I was the main fabricator. So I was just back in the
Oh,
shop
okay.
cutting metal, drilling metal, using the mill, the lathe, the chop saw. I found that rather fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, yeah, that's something that I really wanted to do it, especially because I know PASS has so many programs, and one of them was like the Metrobots. And when I was in my freshman year, I really wanted to join the Metrobots, but I just unfortunately couldn't. And now like everyone's talking like how cool it was and like all these experiences that they had. I was like, oh dang. Um, so so what? Yeah, it is because I know you guys went to like these cool competitions, and that was also like they would also talk about that at Metro. Like you guys won these all these cool awards, and I was a little bit jealous. But what about Swathi? What was your part at the Metrobots?
Yeah. So I had a more of an administrative business side role on the
Mm.
Metrobot. So I was, as soon as I started off the bat, I think I dabbled a little bit in the mechanical and engineering side of it. But I think I had joined right during our build season, which was probably like one of the most inopportune times to join, I think, just because it's very hectic. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I think I found myself gravitating towards the fundraising and business side, and that's where I stayed for the rest of the time. So yeah, so throughout my role as the fundraising manager, I think kind of like Josiah had mentioned, a lot of grant writing and learning how
Mm.
to work with our sponsors and retain that relationship, as well as kind of find new people to potentially sponsor us as well, and writing grants, really focusing on that funding. And I think to your question about how it's kind of influenced my, I guess, professional path now, I think it provided a lot of like rigorous, I think, professional development and soft skills at like what, like 14 to 18 years old. And I don't think, being able to like talk to people who are significantly older than me or are in really high positions or things like that, like those types of development, and even like learning how to write grants and write professionally. I think that was a lot that I don't think a lot of other high schoolers can say that they've been able to do. So that was really, really cool and really foundational.
Yeah, that's very cool. The other question I was going to ask you was, did you have an interest of business or like that aspect before joining Metrobots, or was that something that like you know you got the job, like got that position at the Metrobots, and you were like, maybe I should further this more, or how was that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I was always interested in like more of like the public service side, like law and government going into high school and throughout high school as well. And I think what I liked about business is the fact that it was so broad. And I was like, okay, so within it, there's so much you could be doing, you know, with the grant writing and the fundraising. And I am in one of my degrees is in the business school now, and it's econ, so it's not necessarily like along the lines of like what I was doing at the Metrobots, but I think it kind of provided like an insight as to how broad the business world can be.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's very cool. How about you, Melissa?
So similar to Swathi, I also was on more of like the business and like administrative side of things. Um, for a little bit of time, I was on like the engineering side, and even though that's kind of what I do now, I just found myself being more attracted to that business and administrative side of things. And
Hmm.
for most of my time on the Metrobots, I was a manager on the team. So even though I was on that administrative side, I took on a more of like a where I was managing those like small subgroups that we had and kind of like overseeing everything they were doing. So I kind of dabbled into like the grant writing, the fundraising, but also like the media aspect of everything and like photography or like producing videos. And then also like our outreach portion, which was like huge part of our team, like the reason that we did get so many cool awards and like get to go to like worlds and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I got to help with all of that too. So that's influenced me because I gained so many soft skills that have helped me in my like design career so far. Like I get to be like leaders on like projects because I can like manage people well and like I can understand like from a design point like the way that like what a user might need if I'm like designing a product or
Hmm.
something.
Yeah.
And like how that might be incorporated into like different types of like communities and whatnot. So a lot of those like really valuable soft skills are the things that I learned that I continue to use now.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah. I know Caleb. Were you at the Metrobots or no? No, no. So you're just like me.
Also wanted to join too, but I had
Yeah,
picked up sports, and so with the whole time commitment, I didn't know if I would be able to do both and school at the same time. So
yeah, yeah. It's the same with me. I did sports as well, and then just managing that time. But at the same time, I feel like that's a good thing. You know, trying to manage your time, see what works, what doesn't. But I'm kind of sad I didn't at least try Metrobots. But did you have any cool internships or how was your learning center?
yeah, I take a couple classes like advanced mechatronics and stuff like that, which was very hands on. So we did a lot of building and stuff like that, which I found very helpful because come like prior to coming in, I wasn't really a handyman. I was more like, if I see it, I can try it. But it kind of gave me a lot of skills that, it kind of like pushed me and showed me like, hey, you can do it. Just, look it up, see what you need to do, and then try to get your hands, dirty a little bit. And even just
Yeah.
hearing the stuff that they're talking about also applies to like my startup company that I'm a part of,
Mhm.
like with the whole grant writing, with the whole, it really, I'm hearing a lot of like things that are similar, and it's very exciting to hear that a lot of people are being introduced to these different things, coming in early, because then they can
Mhm.
actually apply that to their lives.
Yeah, well, that's very cool. Yeah, that's something I've like also noticed that sometimes like especially like the communication skills. Like I used to be very shy and all this, and then slowly like I started to open up more because I had to like present like with all these people. Where I had to actually work in a group, which was something I was always scared of. And so and it's something that can help me out through life. Um, so I know we've all talked about like the influence that passed, but I feel like I said, the Metrobots was something I really wanted to try out, but I couldn't. Was there something that maybe you saw at past that you wanted to try out but couldn't, or wish that you could have tried? If not, that's okay.
I think I appreciated how many programs past had. I thought like being there all the time in high school, I was like, yeah, I know what past does. And I was like, no, I don't. Like the past does so much and with so many
Hmm.
students and so many different programs. And I think part of me is just like maybe one summer if I was free I would have wanted to like help out with some of those programs and help kids learn about XYZ science topics and stuff like that. So I think it would have been nice to, I guess, be exposed to the parts that weren't necessarily through Metro but just past individually was doing. um,
Hmm.
yeah, I think that would have been really cool.
Melissa, you said you helped out with the summer programs, right? How was that?
I did for one summer. I think it was in 2019. I actually helped run one of the summer camps, and it was at KIP Columbus. So it wasn't
Mhm.
even at Past. It was at like another like high school, middle school, and I worked with, I believe, kids who were between the sixth and eighth grade, and that was a really fun experience for me. That lasted like a whole like month and a half, and I was there every day from like 9 to 4. So it's kind of like working like a full-time job, like Monday through
Yeah.
Friday, but it didn't even feel like it because the day went by so fast, and like the kids are like they're so smart and bright, and it was like so fun to like see them learning all these things that they didn't know about, or that maybe they were introduced into like some of their science classes, and then they got to learn more about it in a cool way and like do all these fun projects. So the programming that PASS does in their summer camps are really cool opportunities for kids to be a part of.
Yeah, I do think so too. I mean, and I think one of the great things about Pass is that I know they work with so many other schools, and it's not just like Metro in general. Even though they have a good partnership with Metro, but it's just like the same opportunities that we may get other schools. They offer that to other schools, which is really cool. I think Joshua, did you said you did the Minecraft program?
So that was back in like seventh grade, but since then, a lot of times in high school, I even volunteered at the FLO tournaments. And even one year, I did also do the KIP camp. I was what they called a student ambassador, I think, and it really was just helping these kids with their projects, their learning activities, and their different, I guess, activities that they did. Like their final thing, they built ROVs, which are remote
Oh.
operated vehicles, and they kind of
Mm-hmm.
drove them underwater, that was rather cool, helping them with that.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Caleb?
Like Swathi said, just getting more involved with stuff outside of Metro, and even like
Mhm.
with Metro, some of the stuff we did, like I had took a Tai Chi class, which was very cool, and it was a new experience, and it's definitely something I'm glad that I was a part of. So just
Mhm.
kind of tapping into that market outside of Metro and kind of learning more about what they do, and just kind of get myself more involved and plugged in.
Yeah. I think I could say the same in a way. Like I share that same experience. I feel like I through the class at Metro that was in partnership with Pass, I kind of feel like I dabbled in a little bit of everything. Like especially the Tai Chi class and the wellness. And then from there, that's where I started. Going into the media aspect of what I wanted to do. That's where I learned because I like the first 2 years I didn't know what I was gonna do. Like I didn't have. I was like what major should I choose? And through like dabbling in little things and like getting hands on from this learning center, and I'm like, maybe that's not the right thing for me. Let me try this. It just lets you explore, and I think that's the great thing about past. So yeah. And then a little bit off topic from past, but I was just wondering. I know the COVID, the COVID pandemic is just like it brought a huge just hole in the education system, especially like online learning. Like I know we've all had our horror stories of like virtual online learning, and that was like in my personal experience, it wasn't the best. Teachers were trying to pull everything together, see what they can do, and then some teachers couldn't even figure out Zoom, so that was a whole story. But in your opinion or experience, like what is something that the current education system is missing or failing at, or like what is a suggestion? It could be big or small, and it's just from your personal experience.
Maybe activities that relate to the class itself, because
Mm.
our physics class, they're like, okay, we're going to do all the labs online. So they give us this tiny little red box. I can actually show you it. It's called a IO lab. And it can measure like acceleration and velocity and force, and it's all kind of cool stuff. But the activities that they have us do with it doesn't really correlate with the class. They're just kind of random, and it's really hard to create these hands-on activities that you can both do virtually and that help you learn, I feel.
Yeah.
Something I've noticed and I've talked to my peers about is just the fact that I think we're so incredibly focused on like the grades and the outcome and like that GPA and whatnot. And I think while it is important to have some sort of like metric to measure how you're performing and whatnot and whether or not you've actually learned the concepts, I find that like because especially it's in a virtual environment too, I'm literally going through classes for the sake of like getting them over with and getting an A in it and moving on. And like that's like my end goal. And it's so sad because I'm like, I'm paying tuition and I'm trying, I'm, paying money to this university to learn, and I'm not even putting the effort into actually like, do I actually retain anything? Do I actually care, or am I actually struggling and learning, or am I just trying to get this class over with for the sake of getting an A and just being done? So I wish we found a way to strike a balance between like, and there have been some classes where I've actually really struggled. There was an accounting class where I found myself going to office hours because the professor, she was like, she was very intent on making us actually learn, and if that meant us bombing an exam, then, and if it helps us learn better, then so be it, right? So I appreciated the fact that she took a much more personalized approach into making sure that we actually understood what we were learning, rather than just like, funneling out a bajillion students who are just getting A's and whatnot classes in these grades in these classes, but not actually learning. So I feel like there's a couple of classes here and there throughout my high school and college career where I actually had to struggle and go to office hours and force myself to learn because I wanted to, and the professor showed interest, versus taking classes that I'm just like, I'll get an A, but do I remember anything in it? No.
Yeah.
Do I actually? Yeah. So I wish we kind of put more of a focus on not just like the end goal and the outcome and that metric, but actually the process of learning. Do we actually understand anything?
Something I would say is kind of like personalized learning. I feel like a lot of the times we're just taking a lot of like random classes. Like, hey, just fill this requirement. We don't really care what you do, but just fill this requirement. But if we could just find classes that are more geared towards what we're doing and what we're studying and stuff that we would use like past college, like she's saying, like, the retention, like a lot of these classes we're taking them just because, and because of that, like we're just, hey, I just need to know this for the exam. And after that, I'm okay. That's all that matters, So trying to find those classes that are, actually like stimulating to your brain, but also are things that you would want to learn about and want to know, and stuff that you would actually, retain in your mind and would help you like pass college is definitely something we should put more emphasis on.
Yeah, I totally agree, honestly, yeah.
For me, I'm kind of in the same boat as Josiah, where I wish there was more like hands-on learning that was incorporated in what we are doing. Because at least for me, like as a design student, like everything I do is hands-on. And after the pandemic hit, everything became virtual. And like if I'm like designing something, it's always conceptual. Like I'm never doing anything like with my hands or like making it come to life, which makes it really hard to like go through that design process and like really understand like the different like methods that I'm using to like try to create something, which is applicable in like most classes, because you go to a class and it's like it's a lecture and then you just leave Zoom if you don't have any questions, and you're not really retaining information like after that, even if you do like the homework assignments. So uh finding a better way to like incorporate like more interactive learning and like things that actually like stimulate your brain rather than just like sitting there and then like going back and studying your notes later.
Yeah. I agree. Even though I'm still in high school, I kind of feel the same way. Where like sometimes you're just, I guess, mindless studying. You're just trying to memorize everything to just get that grade, pass that test, and then move on to the next one. And there's not enough hands-on learning. And so yeah, so maybe like a balance between that and then especially a lot of hands-on learning, internships, experiences, and all that, which I've always like. I've always been grateful that I have this internship, because I feel like with like Metrobots, like for you guys it was Metrobots or just another internship you guys had, even though in that moment it could have felt like very fun, it was just like another club. Moving on, you realize that it helped me in like my like Swathi, it helped her in her business, further into that business, and Caleb, it helped him with writing the grants and all in his upcoming startup. So I think that's just there should be a balance between that, having classes that further your pathway, but at the same time get you enough hands-on learning. And so with that, I was just going to ask, like, if since you guys were at the past and you guys dabbled in the past programs, was there any program that you would like to see, maybe like further grow, or or would you like to see a different program maybe implemented, like just a completely new idea, if you guys had something in mind?
I could start maybe even implementing like real world stuff. Like a lot of the schools now, like you don't learn like, hey, this is how you can file your taxes. Don't go pay somebody to do it.
Yeah.
Here's how you can do it. More real world application stuff that we could use, not depending on our major or not depending on where we go, but just like everyday skills that we can pick up on that we can actually use.
Mhm. Yeah, and so like with Caleb with that, I feel like everyone says that, we need that, like, a class that teaches how to file taxes, because even then, like, you're like when you're like 16, you're just starting to get a job. Like maybe that should be a high school class, because like you're just getting them a job, and you feel sometimes, I know I went blindly and I thought that money was mine, but in reality it isn't. When you get that first paycheck, you realize, half that paycheck goes to, to paying taxes. So I feel like there should be a class about that, and it could be in like the economics aspect. So
And even going into like business, like, hey, this is
Mhm.
what you should look out for, you know, always, kind of put yourself first in terms of business, like, because if you don't put yourself first, nobody will. Trying to look out for
Yeah.
yourself, you know, I don't know, just like real world stuff
Hmm.
that we can
Yeah.
actually use.
Anyone else? I know one is like, um I guess more in that way, in like the aspect of art, or like, media. I know we slowly started to get more like, the photography classes in high school, but I feel like maybe we should have more of like, just to like explore that realm, because I feel like we're always like I feel like technology, like the T in technology and STEM can also, incorporate media. And so I think that would be very cool if we have like a class about, digital media, like graphic design, and especially like video production, audio production. I feel like that's a very like important class, especially right now. Like everything's going digital, and most of the jobs are digital right now. So I think that would be a very cool class that could be implemented. And I know PASS is dabbling in that, so which is very cool.
Kind of piggybacking off that, I think expanding their summer camps would be a really good opportunity to like incorporate more of that like business aspect, media aspect into whatever they're teaching. Because if I'm not wrong, I think most of them are like STEM based. I think I've only
Mhm.
ever seen them do like one kind of like art based one.
Mhm.
But I know that a lot of people who did the art based one, or a lot of the kids, really enjoyed it. So if they did more of that, I think that would be a really nice way to like continue like their mission of like pursuing STEM or like further developing STEM education, but also like incorporating that really important like business aspect that a lot of the students in robotics had that they've also found really valuable, that
Yeah.
can be transferred really well over to summer camps as well.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. Yeah. Yeah, and like off of that, like the summer program, I feel like the programs has always been like a good way to, further explore, like the arts, and just any other program. Because I know, like we said, like for me and Caleb, like we wanted to join the Metrobots, but we couldn't because of like, sports and like time management, like, all that. But in the summer, you usually have a little bit more time, so I feel like that, having like those opportunities in the summer as well, just to, get, just to get that experience, is a very cool way. Yeah. Um, do you guys have anything else to add? Just, in your experiences, like the past impact. Could be about anything.
Yeah, I think all I would say is the fact that like even throughout whenever we'd write grants and stuff for the Metrobots as well, we discuss how our group and our team was very fortunate to have the resources that we were provided at PASS, having the lab and all the equipment that we were given, and just like the fact that we were able to stay as late as possible and things like that to
Yeah.
actually work. So I think one thing I would say is that, yeah, I feel like any student who comes into contact or is able to like work at PASS and whatnot is very fortunate, because I think we are very lucky, to be able to actually have a place like that where it's very like focused on learning and growth and just like curiosity. I think a lot of schools might not, and a lot of students might not have that opportunity. So I think, yeah, I would just, I think I would just emphasize the fact that, um, any way that, other schools and facilities and foundations can make sure that students have a place where they can grow, learn, just explore and things like that, I think that'd be highly encouraged, because I feel like the sooner you're able to start like learning and failing and growing, I feel like that just creates better curiosity in that person for the rest of their life. So yeah, it was a really cool experience.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
piggyback off of what she said, I'm sorry to cut you off,
No,
but
no,
yeah,
no.
I definitely applaud PASS for just kind of creating that environment and that open space where people can be very innovative, and just having all those resources available to students to use, especially for it being so close. Like, hey, you need to, like, even with the Metrobots, like, hey, you're designing something, you need to cut something real quick in the chop shop. Like, just not having or having those resources at your fingertips definitely helps. Kind of being exposed to that environment definitely does help.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, like what Swathi said. I think failure is one of like was very important that you said that, because I think a lot of classes or a lot of programs, they kind of isolate you from failure. They kind of like want to protect you, and the reality is that that's not going to happen. And I like that they kind in a way they encourage failure. Because you learn from your mistakes, you grow from your mistakes, and so I think that's a very important part, and I really applaud PAST for that. Yeah, and I guess a prime example is this. They let me host Learning on Box, which is a big surprise to me, and it's just a cool opportunity. So yeah. Anything you want to add, Melissa or Josiah?
I will say, and this may not necessarily add to everything else, but simply the amount of professionals that passed was astounding in their career. Like, I knew this one man, he was a tribologist, which worked on like friction and circular forces and stuff like that. And even though it didn't really have anything to do with our robotics side of things, sort of like the bearings and stuff like that, but he taught me not only how to use the mill, the lathe, the chop saw, stuff like that, but he taught me these complex ideas which I would never have learned from anyone else, simply because he was like one of the best people in his field in like all of Ohio or something like that. Which I think is really cool, how PASS can draw expertise from like any
Yeah,
field into like one building, one place.
yeah, the connections that they have. Yeah.
Mhm.
I really appreciate how PAST like treats the students that like walk through their doors. I feel everyone is like treated as equal, and they really do believe in everyone who like comes through. Like you can go up to them with an idea and they will be so excited about it, or like tell them about like something that you did that like you succeeded on or something, and they will be like so happy for you. So they really do believe in like the potential and like the growth that all the students who interact with PAST have, like from their summer camps to people on the Metrobots or any student at Metro. And they give you those opportunities to like interact with those professionals without thinking twice of the fact that like you're a high school student and you're interacting with someone like who might be twice your age, who's like a
Yeah.
professional. Like they see you on the same level of them. And
Mhm.
I think that was really impactful, and like it helps your like not only helps your confidence, but it helps the way that like you eventually like carry yourself once you start to learn more of those soft skills that they help you develop.
Yeah, that's very cool, and I think that's very spot on too. Yeah. So I think experiences, even though we've all like been in different programs, and it's just the connections, just the influence, and like the real world experiences that we get from these programs, which is I think very cool. So yeah, I just thank you very much for being a part of this episode, and have spending taking a part of your day to just talk about your experiences and how that's influenced your pathway. So thank you.